faithfully delivering value through interpreting global literary works. Hi, this is Sally's Book Club. Today we'll explore the book Team of Teams. This is a survival manual for modern enterprises. Even corporate giants like Nokia and Kodak eventually decline despite past glory. Meanwhile, organizations like Google, Amazon, Tencent, and Alibaba became top 10 global companies in under 2 decades. And what underlying forces drive these contrasting outcomes? How to build better teams? This challenge concerns not just CEOs, but every employee shaping their future. This book provides answers to these critical questions. Lead author Stanley McChrystal has extraordinary credentials. Former commander of U.S. Special Operations Command and top U.S. general in Afghanistan. His leadership transformed U.S. military operations in Iraq against al-Qaeda. He discovered military team strategies applied to healthcare, education, and business. The subtitle, Building Agile Teams for Uncertain Times. Let's unpack this two-part concept. First, modern complexity demands new organizational approaches. Second, the ultimate goal is creating agile teams. This subtitle perfectly encapsulates the book's essence. The book blends military experiences with practical organizational strategies. We'll examine 3 core questions. First, why reinvent team management? Second, why information sharing is foundational and how to implement it. Third, how to empower teams after establishing information flow. Let's begin with why management transformation is crucial. Well, traditional industrial structures just can't keep up with today's world. Industrial organizational models emerged post-industrial revolution to meet mass production needs. The architect was Frederick Taylor, who entered Harvard Law in 1874. Vision problems forced him to leave, leading to factory work in Philadelphia. This seems like a tragic turn of events, but Taylor thrived, rising through factory ranks while obsessing over efficiency. At steel plants, he pioneered scientific management by breaking workflows into specialized tasks. Workers mechanically executed specialized tasks at maximum speed. Only managers understood how components interconnected. In The Wealth of Nations, Adam Smith emphasized division of labor's economic benefits. Taylor operationalized Smith's theories to unprecedented extremes. Taylor's methods revolutionized industries, exponentially boosting productivity. By 1913, Henry Ford's assembly line reduced car production to 93 minutes. This was the logical evolution of Taylor's philosophy. Taylor gained renown as the father of scientific management. Productivity gains enriched capitalists while boosting overall prosperity. Taylor's framework divided organizations into thinkers, managers, and doers. He told workers, "I pay you for muscle and mechanical ability. Others get paid to think." Most organizational charts became vertical silos of specialization. Vertical columns represented functional departments. Horizontal layers denoted hierarchy. The top layer with absolute authority, typically the CEO, makes strategic decisions, while lower tiers follow directives. Does your company's structure mirror this hierarchy? Though Taylor lived over a century ago, most organizations still follow his principles. But our evolving world makes these once advanced models increasingly obsolete. In Iraq, McChrystal faced agile, decentralized enemies, causing operational headaches. Al-Qaeda, these terrorists, adapted quickly and launched unpredictable attacks. Despite superior equipment and training, U.S. forces struggled against them. The terrorists operated through fluid communication networks. They coordinated via internet tools and monitored attacks through platforms like YouTube. Shared religious beliefs fostered strong mutual trust among them. U.S. Special Forces maintained rigid hierarchies, requiring Pentagon approval for major decisions. Intelligence analysts and assault teams operated in silos with minimal cooperation. Initially, Special Forces suffered repeated setbacks against these adversaries. Industrial-era structures fail not just militarily, but across modern business landscapes. The rigid hierarchies can't adapt to volatile markets. Shrinking corporate lifespans prove this. The book reveals striking data. 50 years ago, 500 companies averaged 75-year lifespans. Today's Fortune 500 firms last under 15 years and shrinking. Why this dramatic shift? Why did Taylor's scientific management fail? Because our world has undergone seismic transformations. These changes can be summarized in four terms: volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. This might sound abstract. Let's break it down with a real-world example. Meet Edward Lorenz, a meteorologist at Massachusetts Institute of Technology. He was using cutting-edge computers to model annual weather patterns. He noticed tiny input variations created dramatically different weather outcomes in simulations. The results: through deeper analysis, he discovered weather systems are hypersensitive to minute influences, like how a butterfly's wing flap could trigger atmospheric chain reactions, altering weather fronts. Small initial disturbances amplify exponentially through complex interactions. Consequences. Lorenz published these groundbreaking findings years later. Thus, the butterfly effect was born, coinciding with global digitalization and economic interdependence. Today's hyper-connected world creates unprecedented organizational interdependencies. Ambiguity, volatility, and complexity define modern challenges. The butterfly effect perfectly illustrates our current reality. Let's clarify this critical distinction between complexity types. Complicated systems have many interconnected but predictable components, like automobiles, numerous parts with defined relationships and predictable behaviors. Changes produce foreseeable outcomes through established pathways. Complex systems involve chaotic interactions. Think ecosystems or global economies with emergent behaviors. Tightly coupled elements create unpredictable cascading effects. Complicated systems allow detailed prediction and process replication. Taylor's methods worked well in predictable environments. But complex systems defy prediction, requiring empowered organizations to adapt dynamically. In empowered organizations, employees and leaders connect more fluidly beyond rigid hierarchies. This accelerates information flow and enhances organizational transparency. Structural reforms grant individuals greater autonomy and decision-making authority. Let's recap the first section's key points. Industrial-era organizations boosted productivity during the manufacturing age, but modern complexity renders these structures obsolete for coordination and prediction. Thus, the imperative shift toward empowered organizational models. Next, we'll explore establishing information sharing systems, the transformation's first step. This fundamentally creates organizational transparency and information fluidity. Every member gains systematic understanding of organizational objectives. To combat Al-Qaeda, the author overhauled competitive siloed systems, creating cross-functional awareness and commitment to forge adaptable teams. Physical workspace redesign initiated this transformation. Previously isolated units operated in segregated spaces. The redesign replaced barriers with open-plan plywood workstations. The Nerve Center became the Joint Operations Center, JOC, a massive collaborative hub. 60 specialists, analysts, operations officers, medics collaborated in real time. All mission-related discussions occurred transparently in this space. Wall-sized screens displayed live mission data and combat footage. This layout aimed to dismantle departmental barriers for efficient communication. Environment creation. This approach drew inspiration from corporate best practices. Michael Bloomberg, founder of Bloomberg LP, once said, "I've always believed management edicts have limited impact on employee behavior. You might temporarily enforce compliance, but old habits resurface quickly. Physical workspace design creates lasting behavioral change. I mandated open offices, but only removing walls truly fostered collaboration. Bloomberg prohibited executive offices and reserved parking to eliminate hierarchy. As NYC mayor, he applied these principles to government operations successfully. McChrystal's approach gained traction in Iraq. Beyond physical changes, establishing communication protocols and cultural norms proved crucial. He institutionalized information sharing across all military units. Combat teams immediately digitized captured materials for analyst access via secure networks. This revolutionized operational intelligence turnaround times. Daily video conferences with 7,000 participants became standard practice. Real-time intelligence dissemination occurred in these sessions. McChrystal's transparency fostered cross-departmental understanding of strategic objectives. Similar communication frameworks powered the Apollo program's success. When JFK announced the moon mission in 1962, many doubted its feasibility. The Apollo program required unprecedented coordination. 300,000 workers across 20,000 contractors and 80 nations. Traditional management methods couldn't scale to this complexity. In 1963, NASA brought in George Mueller to architect the Apollo program's management framework, implementing massive organizational reforms. He envisioned NASA as interconnected neural networks, breaking down traditional silos between managers and engineers. Cross-team daily communication became mandatory practice. Mueller believed system-wide understanding was essential for optimal individual performance. He mandated real-time data sharing through Mission Control, a pre-internet information superhub buzzing with cross-team updates. This created analog real-time collaboration years before digital networks. When Neil Armstrong declared his lunar step a giant leap for mankind before 600 million viewers, it validated this approach. MIT researchers later confirmed communication density determines collective intelligence more than individual IQ. Their studies showed team performance correlates with social perceptiveness and communication equality. Building transparency requires both open channels and cross-team trust networks. General McChrystal implemented an embedded personnel program in Iraq. This rotated personnel between units for 6-month integration periods. Army Rangers worked with Navy SEALs, analysts embedded with combat units. Cross-pollination fostered mutual understanding and personal bonds between teams. Initial resistance gradually gave way to improved inter-unit cooperation. But after implementation, the entire organization achieved unprecedented cohesion. Teams collaborated fluidly during crises with enhanced responsiveness. Systemic understanding and strong interconnections form the foundational pillars. These combined pillars enable true shared consciousness. That concludes Section 2. General McChrystal's intelligence sharing revitalized Special Forces operations against al-Qaeda leadership. These methods proved equally effective in corporate and government sectors. But shared consciousness is just step one in organizational empowerment. Achieving true agility requires completing the final critical phase. What exactly does empowerment entail? The answer lies in McChrystal's operational experiences. Post-reform operations showed marked improvement. That McChrystal noticed recurring nighttime interruptions, door creaks followed by, "Sir, you awake?" Officers sought life or death decisions on time-sensitive targets. Initially validating, this pattern gradually revealed systemic flaws. He began questioning his decision-making role. Frontline officers often possessed superior situational awareness than command. Hierarchical approval chains caused critical delays in fluid combat environments. Decision latency proved decisive against agile adversaries. Minutes lost navigating corridors meant missed operational windows. Successful strikes captured high-value targets. Delayed actions allowed enemy operatives to escape. Thus, he initiated decentralized decision-making to enhance organizational agility. The essence of empowerment? How was this operationalized? General McChrystal transparently shared his decision-making frameworks across the command structure. He empowered personnel to make aligned decisions within these cognitive parameters. In most cases, subordinates reached congruent conclusions autonomously. Thus, decision authority became distributed through the organization. Corporate parallels exist in empowerment practices. The Ritz-Carlton exemplifies luxury hospitality excellence. Founder Caesar Ritz established the golden rule: the customer is always right. Contrary to assumptions about strict oversight, their approach emphasizes employee autonomy. Staff can spend up to $2,000 per incident to resolve guest issues without approval. Employees receive training to creatively fulfill unique guest requests beyond formal duties. Decentralized decision-making emerged in corporate practice since the 1980s, termed decision-rights decentralization in management literature. Psychological studies confirm empowerment's impact on employee motivation. Enhanced autonomy increases job satisfaction and task performance quality. Columbia researcher Hallowell identifies three innate human needs: relatedness, competence, autonomy. Empowered organizations enable self-directed work arrangements, thus fulfilling the autonomy need. Clear objectives and confidence emerge through empowerment. Enhanced colleague and client connections satisfy relatedness requirements. Empowered organizations unlock greater workforce potential. Even routine manufacturing work now requires empowerment for innovation benefits. Toyota invests heavily in frontline training and problem-solving cultivation. Toyota believes manual tasks demand more innovative employee approaches. This contrasts sharply with Taylor's rigid scientific management principles. Taylor advocated absolute procedural compliance, even with flawed directives. Taylor's legacy persists in modern top-down decision hierarchies. Leadership role transformation remains a key empowerment barrier. McChrystal redefined leadership philosophy: gardening rather than chess playing. Military tradition favors controlled execution protocols. True effectiveness lies in nurturing organizational ecosystems. Organizational success mirrors gardening, sustained nurturing over initial planting. Success requires continuous cultivation through systemic support. Leaders cultivate growth environments rather than force outcomes. Leadership focus shifts from direct control to cultural stewardship. Priority becomes fostering collaborative ecosystems over individual decisions. Executive commitment sustains operational tempo and cross-functional synergy. This concludes Part 3. Empowerment means decentralizing decision-making and enhancing employee initiative. Modern leaders must transition from chess masters to gardeners in their roles. The industrial era organizational model is obsolete. Internal transformation is mandatory for success. Transformation. Building empowered organizations first requires transparent information sharing systems. Second, grant employees autonomy to enable agile responses. This creates high-performing adaptive teams. Thus, empowerment. This concludes our exploration. Find show notes below. Join us next time for more insights.